All right, let me close everything down here, and let's switch right back over to the guests. There you go. Welcome back to our final section of the captain's table. 4 more hours. I got this. We've been streaming for 20 hours. I've been streaming for 20 hours. So I got a presentation and a question and answer session to get through, you know. So welcome to the lore section, the last section. You know, let's get started with Crunchy. Who are you? What do you do in Star Citizen, and where can they find you?
Howdy. So I'm Crunchy. I stream Star Citizen at twitch.tv/Crunchy. We do a lot of PvE and a lot of events. So I hold a once every 2 week racing event with prizes, and we do lots of org type events, that sort of thing. Yeah.
Awesome.
That's me.
Twitch.tv/Crunchy, right?
Twitch.tv/Crunchy.
Awesome.
Not crunchy, not crunky, Crunchy.
Crunchy. Jail. Who are you? What do you do in Star Citizen? Where can they find you? Also, nice shirt.
Hello, thank you. Yeah, I got it off the back of a merchantman. Yeah, I'm Jail. Well, I suppose my first love is always the alien languages, and I have a YouTube channel where I do random projects that take my fancy. I'm not a regular person for posting videos, but when I do, I tend to be quite happy with them. You might have heard me from the Lord Citizen podcast, which Paul, Al, and I made many episodes of together. And yeah, I am a perennial entrant to CIG contests, putting way too much effort in.
Hey, you got the mention, right? The honorable mention.
Yeah. I got a Rock DS this year for sewing a few fabric panels onto an RAF surplus jumper.
There we go.
Nice.
Nice.
That's worked out all right. Yeah. 12 hours of hand sewing.
Many pricked fingers. I'm assuming.
Yeah, like I said, way too much effort I put in.
We're actually, this is funny because we started the stream with Diablos, and Diablos was like, we talked about how it took him 13 hours and like $1,300 to build dollary dues to build that his outfits that he won about $200 worth of ships for.
I'm actually fast approaching being like concierge on prizes alone, mostly thanks to winning the cooking contest this year.
There we go. Yeah, that was a fantastic video, by the way. If you want to know more about the Warhammer and the Javelin, he did a little lore piece mixed in with his cooking.
Oh, that cooking, yeah, that was just for fun.
Just for fun.
The cooking contest was the one I did all in Xi'an. I did a cooking show in Xi'an language.
Oh, there we go. I didn't see that one. I gotta go watch that now.
Does it have subtitles?
By the way, Jail's the one who's trying to teach me Banu, and my Banu is terrible. So that's gonna be it's gonna be a voice line at some point in the options. Your Banu is terrible. Al, who are you? What do you do in Star Citizen? Where can they find you?
I'm Al Garrett, Old Man Al. I'm an info runner, so we're most responsible for shows like Fix My Fleet. People seem to think that we are trying to tell people what they need to do because their ship fleets are hopeless, but generally Fix My Fleet is people trying to help people who are saying, hey, this is what I want to do. How can I stretch my dollars to get that gameplay? That's probably the biggest thing I do. And frequent look, the Law Citizen podcast with Jail and the Galactic Historian, Professor Paul Shelley. And yeah, I like Star Citizen. I like law. I like flying ships. I like collecting ships.
So I have to start this off, Al. Start off this properly because this was brought up earlier. What are you planning on buying to break the $400 million mark? Since we all know it's going to be you again. It's always you again.
Probably not.
For those who don't
remember
know, Al, you were what? Like you were the 100 million and the 200 million?
150 million. No, the 100 million, 150 million, and 200 million, I believe.
Yeah. He was the 100 million, 150 million, 100 and 200 million backer. So like he spent that money, that 100 million, the 150 million, and the $200 million came in was from Al.
Are we sure anyone else has played ships, or is it just Al?
It's just Al.
Oh, no, other people bought ships. I just the 100 million was really, I saw it coming up, and because I had an option on a javelin, I figured there's got to be 100 million. That's like the goal we need to get the game done, And I figured it can't cross that mark with a $5 paint skin.
No.
So I thought, okay, it's got to be auspicious total, has to be an auspicious ship. So I figured, yep, I'll get the javelin. And the others were just looked at the thing and went, yep, I'll get that.
Yeah, I'll get that. So the very beginning of the stream was asking what Diablos was asking what you were going to buy to hit that 400 million. So
I'll be honest, I haven't checked what the funding level is. I haven't really paid attention to that since Sandy told me to stop.
We're real close. Yeah, we're real close, if not over it already.
Yeah, they could be over it already.
It was 390 million as of CitizenCon. So unless they made $10 million off of 400
eyes,
400 eyes and
400 eyes and Liberator concept, it's possible.
Yeah, well, it could be. That's a lot of money still.
It's possible. But after 200 million, Sandy's comment was, "Oh my God, what have you done? Stop." So, and then I said, "Well, do I get a moon?" And she said, "What do you want, Stanton?" And I said, "No, they've already strip mined it." Foolish.
Should have asked for Nella. So, you've been rolling in that Jumptown money.
Nah. I do like Stanton. The idea of the Hurston. Hurston is the fact that it looks like Australia. The gum trees and all the rest out there. It does look like the outback Australia. So it does have a soft spot, but they've strip mined it. It's no good.
Well, see,
and yes, I do know. That was all joking and never ever serious. So. Don't think that's on the cards for anyone who pushes 400 mil or anything like that.
So what we're trying to say is that we have to get at least one Algorid Hurston involved in the Hurston family, a official Algorid Al Hurston,
Uncle Algorid,
Uncle Algorid, because Constantine's Uncle Algorid.
I'm more likely one of the original settlers on Hurston that have got displaced, I think.
I have to ask the two Aussies on this because I also had to ask this question again because I asked this to execute. This is an idea that's been running in my brain for the entire day, which is Mad Max savages, nomadic Mad Max savages roaming around the wastes of Hurston, raiding various encampments. Yes or no?
Ooh. I'm gonna say a yes, but it has to specifically be. You have to theme them. Maybe jail. Maybe you can help them with it. You have to theme them as they are like the leftovers from the people that did like the what is it called? Like the big uprising on Hurston. So it's them, but they've been displaced elsewhere in Hurston as these nomadic warriors.
Yeah, we'll have like anarcho-syndicalist raiders. That'd be great.
Yeah. I think we need a Thunderdome.
Yeah, I'm just thinking like gangs of cyclones and tonks rolling around and guys in very little bit of little attire carrying flamethrowers, raiding and terrorizing poor little villages.
No, they wouldn't have tonks. They'd have the chassis of the tank, not the turret.
Yes, just the chassis.
Chassis of the tank being pushed by 4 Dragonfly engines.
being propelled by them, strapped to that chassis. Yeah. That's right. All right, so let's get started with just the topic at hand for this entire show has been CitizenCon, your interpretations, your goods and bads. So Al, what are your goods and bads from CitizenCon?
Probably the biggest one for me was, oh my God, look at the BMM. I've been saying for ages since the BMM came out, and I was looking at the Banu, and back then Banu were just family groups. We didn't really have a Soloi, with their specialties, and it was just the BMM is a generation ship that the Banu use, and when they need to, they all gather together and that form a militia. And so even at that point, I was looking at it and going, this is the Banu military ship.
Mhm.
It's their merchant ship, but it's the big ship they use, and when they need trouble, they all band together, and that's their cap ship. And so early on, I was seeing it as their corvette or their frigate. And then there was that time when it grew, and they said it's basically become a frigate, and it just kind of confirmed where I was always thinking in terms of the Banu. But the fact that it's grown to the point they had to have folding wings so it fit on a landing pad. It's become huge. So yeah, that's probably one of the things. I like the light aircraft carrier, or the light carrier, or the ferry, or
Mhm.
the helicopter landing dock. I like that idea. I think it's got some shortfalls. In fact, just in terms of it's only got crew quarters for 2, but it's got,
Mhm.
it's
16
it's
jump
got the
seats.
support for the
Yeah.
crews of the other ships and things, but it's clearly, even though it's long distance, it's clearly the short distance, because there's no real support for those guys. They're bunking on the floor rather than anywhere else.
Yeah.
So, for 400i, that's a nice looking ship. I think it's probably the nicest looking Origin ship in terms of lack of wasted space. I know people are saying, "Oh, it's really a Connie competitor," but I think it really does fit in with the Connie and the Drake Corsair, and that you've got the different levels of each one. One has no snubs or vehicles. The Connie had both. It has, and the 400 has the X1 dock. And they've got different levels of the cargo. From the brief we had on the Corsair flies worse than a Connie, and the 400 supposedly flies better than a Connie. So again, you've got that level of between all three. They've all got a large shield. I think the Corsair's got 2 large shields, or if I remember the changes that we're making, I could be wrong there. So they're very similar in components. They're very similar in size. They're very similar in flight. What they've said the flight model will be, slightly give or take. They're similar in their weapons, so 400i being faster, and that has smaller weapons than the 400, than the Connie, and the Connie has less weapons than a Corsair. So so I really think that it fits into that level where we've talked about. I liked looking at the homesteads. I like the homestead stuff. I like the 3 variations on the gameplay. I like hearing what Tony said, but a lot of it was, yeah, heard that last time, heard that last time, heard that last time. It was in Tony's talk. There didn't seem to be anything new, whereas the ship shape did give us new stuff. Did go through, and it did go through that kind of what's coming, what's going. What I was surprised, I didn't really feel I heard or saw, and it could be just that I fell asleep in the early hours of the morning. In the lead up to CitizenCon, they'd said there is variations on a popular ship.
Mhm.
And I can't recall seeing the variation on a popular ship.
I wonder if
At
it's
all.
an IAE thing. I don't know if they because I don't remember them. Maybe it was dropped. There was no variation on a popular ship.
No,
I
I can't remember
I think
seeing
they're
one. I can't remember hearing it.
I think they're
But I remember,
probably referring to what we were going to see about the BMM using words that were misleading, maybe.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I have thought of that as well. That was possibly what they were talking about, the variation on the BMM. But it's not really a variation. It's really
Yeah, it doesn't make sense within their reports, because in their
Hmm.
reports they were specifically talking about, these variations have reached white box, grey box, etc. The
Yeah.
BMM hasn't, right? So
Yeah.
I think probably IAE,
Mm.
if not maybe starting next year, something.
Yeah. But it was just the fact that in the lead up, I thought they'd said it was in part of CitizenCon, and it
Mm.
wasn't there.
Mm.
So
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that we've gone from having the anniversary CitizenCon and IAE being one event, and they're splitting it back so that the anniversary is actually near the anniversary,
Mhm.
and it's like a divorced Christmas. Now we get 2 Christmas presents.
Woo!
It's great.
Yeah, I like that.
So, Orthodox Christian and
Yeah.
Catholic Christmas. Woohoo!
What were the downsides? Like any kind of the because we've talked about all your positives. Was there any negatives you took away from CitizenCon, Al?
I think in some ways I think 315 going live.
Okay.
And not because I think 315 is bad, but I think in some ways 315 going live and having us pick a home base for all our shit, all of our crap, which for some people is nothing, but for others it means everything. But one of the things that I really feel it's killed is that in the past when you're flying around the verse and someone says, "Oh, I'm thinking about getting a hammerhead, but I'm not sure. I don't know whether I like it," and you'd say, "Oh, hang on, come to a space station, I'll spawn one up. You can take it out
Mhm.
and take it for a spin." That dead.
Mhm.
That's not going to happen as much anymore because, oh yeah, I've got a hammerhead you can borrow, but we've got to go back to Hurston, or we've got to go back to Arcor, or we've got to go back to, because that's my home base and that's where it is, and I can't spawn it without that. So, and I understand why they've done it, but it's really killed that ship loan ability, or the ease of doing that ship loan ability for people. But yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Jail. Positives and negatives, goods and bads.
I think, well, we were told ahead of time it was going to be a very different CitizenCon. We were told during the stream it was going to be a very different CitizenCon. So, of course, the word on everyone's lips is, why are you doing a very different kind of CitizenCon?
Yeah.
I thought that overall, I thought that the general stuff that we were getting was far more indicative of a healthy development than previous years. They weren't razzing stuff up to make it look way better than what they were actually achieving at the moment. It was very much sort of, this is where we are, not where we'd like to be.
Yeah.
The mic drop moment for me was Todd Pappy going, "Oh, and now we're going to wake up inside the 400i and we'll walk through the door and we're over a pyro and we're showing off the new tech." So you got,
and the
new
clouds
ship.
were awesome.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
the cloud tech. We're showing 3 things all in one go, and that was like boom, 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 and it's all stuff that they've achieved, not and are achieving.
And as
yeah,
someone said in chat.
yeah, and the BMM I think was also like one of my nicest surprises. The my I wouldn't say I had any low points because I think everything that was said was really like good. I think the most disappointing panel for me was the Tony Z panel, because as Al was saying, it was stuff that we've heard before, and it usually Tony Z's panels, he's really planned out a very good, like very clear communicated presentation, and having that as a more of a discussion panel, it kind of lost me. It just ended up sort of drifting around, and I wasn't engaged by that. But that was still, everything he was saying was all stuff that's great. It's just we're in that awkward phase where it's like they've got nothing to announce because they're just doing it, but we're not at the stage where they've done it, so they haven't got anything to show.
And the question that I came up with that, as I'm just thinking about it, is in the past it was just what we want to do, and the question is, are they at the point where they're really saying this is what we've got?
Yeah.
So and I don't know. It's just
this. It feels a lot more like this is what we have now. This was what was available. Let's put it out there. It's less. This is the planned future. So we mocked this up to show you what it will be like in the game's released, and more like, hey, this is what the game's going to be like when Pyro comes out next year. And you can look at it, it's like, oh, the loading bug is still there. The way the AIs move and shut like kind of move around is still exactly like we see them in game right now. Like like all of the behaviors, all the bugs, little like eccentricities that the current 3.14, 3.15 PTU has, or Star Citizen has, was in that demo. And it's like, oh, so this is just the game. This is just what they have, but they haven't put it into the game yet.
And it's an evolution of where they've been heading, of being far less and less reliant on set pieces that they've created just for this. So obviously the scenario was crafted in their tools. But even if you think about like last time, when they did the jump point, it was pretty clear that they just had a 2D texture for the jump point, and then it was coming out, and that wouldn't work from any other angle. Just like in the year before when they're showing us ArcCorp, or 2 years before, whichever it was, that whole thing of them flying up from the city and then looking back and seeing the city below them from the space station. That was none of that was in game, and none of that was representative of how it looks in game, because that was made up just for that, which means wasted effort and showing something which is better than can actually be achieved when you're having to worry about it being an MMO and not just being from a single force perspective that you can make the player take. And they've moved away from that to things that they are actually achieving. And that's good.
But even on that one, where we were on ArcCorp and we looked up and saw the station, now you can be above you can be on Hurston and you can look up and you can see the station, or you can be on the station above Hurston, you can look down and you see Hurston.
But that's my point, is that where the station has to be to look good from all angles means that view is not as nice as the view they had on ArcCorp, where basically they were only as high as like, you know, an airplane really, and then just taking a really great angle to look back and make it look exciting.
Yeah, okay,
which was not deliverable, because it was a silly setup to make that one beautiful shot, but that shot won't work from any other angle.
It was a custom map. Yeah,
exactly.
You know, it was designed.
And I do notice there was a comment that someone said they don't understand why I said the loaner ships are gone. I was actually meaning not the loaner ships that we get when our ships aren't ready from CIG, but the fact that when I'm in game and someone's talking about, hey, I want to buy this ship, but I'm not sure whether I'm going to like it, you could actually say, hey, come to the station and I'll spawn this ship for you, and you can take it and fly it around and do that. But because we've now got home places with our where everything spawns, that's gone.
All right. Was there anything negative you'd have, Jail, or just?
That's my most negative comment, was that I felt that Tony Z's panel was a little bit disappointing. It was I think he's at his best when he's just presenting, and we got some of that, but that was a very long panel where I think there were higher expectations than what was delivered, because it was just retreading the same points. And that's, I mean, I don't think that's that bad. I just felt that was the panel which didn't grab my attention as much as I thought it was going to.
Okay. I do wonder if maybe the 40-minute video that Tony Z did earlier this year, if they just didn't do that and put it in CitizenCon instead, like how different of a situation that would be. Because that video was full of like, hey, Quanta's taken massive strides ahead, right? So
I think that's a spot on point, Crunchy. And
you're completely right.
And I think that video plus what we knew Tony Z does, we all had expectations way up here. And so when it was basically on par with what he did halfway through the year, we're going, I think that's why we feel it was such a letdown.
Yeah. I mean, Disco Lander came on earlier today and basically said, because we're giving you so much stuff all the time with ISC and SCL and with Progress Tracker, we're not going to be able to hide stuff anymore. You either get all that information right now, or you get flashy CitizenCon. And I think most of us, like, I felt more hype in the summer and in the beginning of the year than I've ever felt in the summer and the beginning of the year for Star Citizen. Usually the hype is October through December, and then it's just hibernation until September, where you build up hype for October, November. Like, Star Citizen started the year off in 2021 with Xenothreat. Like, they started off being like, hey, here's an event, an invasion, enjoy it, you know? And it was the most fun I've had in Star Citizen in a long time. And then it's, you know, new patches rolled out, and then bam, you know, Blockade, Reputation coming out, like all these things coming out. Then Tony Z gives an hour video basically talking exactly about how these events are being created, what Quanta is, all this detailed information. like we've got a lot more stuff overall than we think we would have had otherwise. So yeah, I think it's kind of like more of a spread out thing, but
I just noticed a Twitter friend in chat, so I'm just saying hi to Humac, who is part of Star Citizen Twitter.
hello Humac.
We'll wave.
Humac hangs out here a lot. I think I've seen Humac
good.
at least on Twitter. I've seen Humac on Twitter. I don't know about if I've seen some here, but yeah. Croncy, goods and bads. Sorry, CitizenCon.
So firstly, this was my first CitizenCon. I got into the game right after, like literally right after, maybe a week or two after CitizenCon 2949. And so I didn't really know what to expect. And from that perspective, I was really impressed. Firstly, Pyro 3, wow. Even just its aesthetics, the black and the yellow, or really more like a gold and the white and everything, it looked amazing. Super impressed with that. Where cloud tech has come, or where it's going is probably more accurate, is amazing. Super impressed with that. I have one very particular gripe. So my like higher education background is in audio engineering, and I was really keen for the audio talk, but it kind of just ended up being an hour-long selling point for their new tech.
Yeah,
and that was a little disappointing. I was kind of hoping they would maybe go, this is how we're creating the sounds for this ship and this or whatever, but it was more just like, here's this piece of tech, we're going to explain it 20 times over the next hour.
yeah.
So I was very disappointed in that one, but
I can remember seeing the chat as it was going, well, still still
yeah. Listen. You want to know about Emperor Claudius and his fantastic works for the Roman Empire, all right? You don't understand, all right? You just don't understand. Claudius is the new god emperor of Star Citizen. That's what I learned from chat.
So which
that and the Gen 12 Vulcan panel, I thought were like, oh yeah, you're telling us how are you going to deliver it? You're going to tell us it's going to be faster. It's going to be, and that's all great. And I just love that that's happening, but I don't really need to know the details.
Yeah.
So we've got the Emperor, we've got the Roman Emperor, and we've also got the Roman god Vulcan. So
yeah,
true. I did quite enjoy the. I didn't expect I was going to enjoy it, but I did quite enjoy the talk on server meshing. It was honestly probably like of the quote unquote complex talks that they had, it was probably the best one they did, because they had this really nice graphic where they went through a very easy way to understand for someone like me who has no idea how any sort of programming works. A very easy way to understand, this is how server meshing works, this is what we expect it to accomplish, blah blah blah. So pretty impressed overall, but also CIG, where's my raft? Where's my raft?
Don't hold CIG to the standards of Star Citizen Leaks community, okay? They're not Star Citizen Leaks. But we are going to get a Mystery ship at IAE.
Cool. Mystery refining ship.
Could the idea of a raft have actually been the Liberator?
Maybe.
No, the leaks quite
I know I've seen linked images, but if in some ways the
400 eyes now
used a raft.
Yeah, they slashed the polygon budget by 90% before releasing it.
We've got a bit of conspiracy theory on the channel that the raft is not a refining ship. It's nothing like that. What it actually is it's able to pick up, the bags that the prospector and the mole leave, but it's also possibly got an Argo MPUV with mining laser snubcraft. And so the whole idea would be you would get into that, mine, pick up the bags with the raft, and then go from there.
I think it's,
I like it.
They spoke a lot about these large containers in the BMM talk. I think it's a ship specifically for orbiting and deorbiting those. Personally,
there we go.
Makes sense. Yeah.
There we go. I will. I've been regurgitating this over and over again. I will say, goods and bads. I thought it was a good start. It was a good CitizenCon that was poorly paced. I feel like like a lot of the reveals could have been spread out a little bit more, move the either like some of those gameplays, one of those 3 gameplay plays, like start off with the gameplay with the first run through, and then you do the rest of that thing. Then you drop the gameplay, like mission, same mission but version 2 halfway through. You have to wrap up the whole game, the whole presentation with the same mission version 3 but with stealth and all that kind of stuff, and you send it home, and then Jared sits there and goes, by the way, 315 PTU Wave 1's out. Have a good day. Boom,
Yeah,
bam, sealed. No one cares. Like they would be fantastic. They'd be like, okay, cool, all is forgiven. I think that would have been done a lot better in terms of perspective. It's a good. Yeah.
It would have broken up the show a little bit more. Sorry for cutting you off there, Paul.
Yeah. No, I was just saying, I think, like I said, it was a good CitizenCon that was poorly paced.
I mostly agree, but like that's sort of the situation that is a much better situation to have that at the end if everyone's watching all 8 hours, and that's simply not the case. I think what they've done is they've gone for, in CitizenCons in the past, doesn't really matter where they position them in terms of the majority of the world watching them, because they're just going to watch them on YouTube per talk. And that's sort of the same case here, but now they've got this Twitch viewership issue to consider. So if you were watching the live viewers like I was, because I hate myself and I watch everyone's live viewers constantly, they were at like 40,000 people right at the beginning of the stream for the initial panel. That would not have been the case 8 hours in after listening to the server meshing talk, the audio talk, the whatever.
Yeah.
You would have lost a ton of viewers, and then it's not as special to everyone watching on Twitch. However, the thing with 315, yes, I definitely think they should have done that right at the end. It did feel weird to do it, 3.5, 4 hours into the talks.
Well, I also think CIG in the future is going to have to, if they're going to do any kind of Twitch stream, because they do usually Twitch stream, Switch has changed from 2019. I don't think a lot of people realize this. Twitch in 2019 still had the browse function, where you could go to the browse and you could see the top played games. You click those games, and like the initial thing you'll see is the top streamer of the top played game of Twitch will give you the highest numbers. So you could sort everything out by highest numbers and all these sorts of functions. That's gone. Twitch is now an algorithm game. They have an algorithm, and the algorithm will feed you who you should be watching. And unless you're looking by game, then it won't matter. So, having 40,000 people on Star Citizen doesn't get you to more attention from other people going, hey, why is Star Citizen number 3 in the list? And then people start watching it, and they watch Star Citizen, and then that grows and grows and grows. It's
less that side, but more about the fact that people that know about CitizenCon are going to be the ones that are watching it.
Yeah.
They're going to watch it from when they see Star Citizen go live. And I'm less talking about them going to the browse feature and whatever.
I know.
I'm more saying people will become disenfranchised over the course of a couple of hours and just stop watching and then watch it on YouTube later.
That's true.
If you have big things at the end there, then that's just what that's going to become. That's going to become the YouTube feature.
I agree, but I was saying I think that over the change has become where CIG needs to focus on things like talking with Amazon, getting front page if they want to do this in the future. Because if they got front page for 8 hours, like Riot or any of those other companies would go with Amazon, they would have had 140,000 people watching them, and that would go down. Yeah. But it would also be more of a marketing event. There'd be a lot more people who are paying attention to it than just the people who know who Star Citizen is. It was still not bad, but I was just saying that would have been a little bit different. But
I definitely agree with you, Paul, about how the first panel could have been structured better.
Yeah,
that it was people were getting very atrophied with concept art, which we had to get through a lot of that before they showed any of the gameplay. And they could have really done to show one of the playthroughs before they were getting to some of that concept art. I got the feeling like there was an intention maybe to show the inside of a station, and then that wasn't done, so all they could show was the look dev stuff. But even if you take it was the one just before Josh Van Zylen, where they were doing the concept art of inside the station and then building up to the reveal of the final version. Actually, I think they grab people better by showing people what they've achieved and then showing how they've achieved it, rather than going through their the narrative of the process of how they got to the finale, culminating in the finale, which seems like a logical way to do it, but isn't the most exciting way to show
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. I got to admit, I didn't always understand bug smashes, but I did like bug smashes at times because they go, this is the problem. And you'd show you the problem and they'd explain what was going on with the problem. And then it's like, and this is how we fixed it. And I didn't always understand all the technical stuff, but it was always interesting to be able to see, oh, yeah, this is how they're going about solving this problem or fixing this issue. And it's just, I think it's the same type of idea. Here's the product. How do we get there? So yeah.
Yeah, I think it's that. I will say, there's a lot of lore. Just we're bringing some of the lore discussion in. There's a lot of lore in that Banner Merchantman. Dear Jesus, did they add a lot more lore to that thing?
That thing looks amazing. When they showed like basically here's the color palette. Like it was a very simple thing, but it's just like, oh wow, we can see everything you've taken inspiration from, all that, and it's looking great.
Yeah.
What excited me lore-wise about that was I've always been concerned about this fact that the Banu and the humans have very different living requirements for what it means to have like a house for both. And the way they seem to be squaring that is by saying the human accommodations are the guest accommodations, and then the Banu accommodations are not necessarily like framed as like cabins because they don't need cabins. They go to this sanctuary apparently now. And the other thing that's been irking me is that the Banu color palette in lore is supposed to be like the most garish neon thing you've ever seen, and then their aesthetic in game has always been austere gold, but they're introducing that with the crystals and stuff and refracting light that reflects off the gold in colors. And I think that's a really good way to marry those slightly divergent ideas of what the Banu color palette should be.
Yeah.
But even the idea of having the holograms going up the stairwell is kind of picking up that idea of the Banu being out there. But I think you're right. That the idea of them being that almost that hobbit color in kind of their color, the hobbits are bright colors everywhere, and that almost was the image I got with the way I used to describe the Banu. They're really out there. If the flavors are strong,
they're magpies.
Or is that the Xi'an who've got the really strong flavors?
Both do. Both are.
Yeah, they're magpies. Is the best way to. They're magpies. Ooh,
yeah,
shiny.
and that's the other thing that the Banu were also the thing I always concerned me was the fact that Banu are taller than humans, and so
huge.
That means when we go into a ship, everything should feel. I don't know if anyone ever saw.
Little oversized.
Don't know if anyone ever saw He Who Should Not Be Named's game.
Yeah,
but when you walk through that,
Voldemort's game.
Yeah, no, there's a horrible mash by somebody called who doesn't like Star Citizen. But his game, when you walk through it, you felt like a hobbit walking through a giant's. Like everything was that, and in a sense, that's almost what you feel. The Banu should feel like, because they're 7-8 feet, whereas we're 6, so everything should feel taller, or the doors should be higher. I don't feel I get that with the Defender.
We've got Xylo in chat. Hi, Xylo.
Hi, Xylo. I would invite Xylo to come on and talk, but I'm sure Xylo's still dealing with Disco coming on and talking earlier, or I just told him and I ratted out Disco. I don't know.
I think they've. What I mean is that I think they've done a clever thing in squaring what, like, the rational thing to do would be to, like, say there are Banu merchantmen made for Banu, and then there's ones which they've adapted for humans, which they're going to sell to humans. But that means making 2 models, and they've kind of met it in the middle in a way which kind of works and isn't demanding that they have like 2 different versions. And if you hijack a Banu merchantman from a Banu, you can't use it because there's no toilet.
Yeah, and I think that makes sense, because originally, like, the idea of the Banu merchantmen these were family ships that they've sold off and we've managed to get. That's why they were rare. But there's so many out there owned by players nowadays that that law doesn't doesn't
Work.
fit.
They don't even
It
have
doesn't work
families
anymore.
anymore. They sell their babies, so it's
Yeah,
like,
that's right. So it's no longer
Yeah.
the family. It's kind of a suloi, and even
Yeah.
that idea seems to have gone by the board. And so these family suloi controlled ships, which were the Banu merchantmen, which were rare, and if you got one, it was like awesome. There's such a diamond. How many people have a Banu merchantman? You know?
I mean, well, it also makes a little sense that it's so common now because the Banu, like there's two, like the Banu don't make many things. And when they make something, they make it because it's the best. And I feel like the Banu merchantman being sold like all the time or being more frequent now kind of falls in line with the new kind of concept of what the Banu merchant is. But it also kind of falls in line with the fact that the Banu are, this is like the Banu's, this is their,
Made for export.
it's the peak of their culture. This is the Budweiser of the Banu, or the Ford F-150, the Toyota Helix. This is the Toyota Helix of it. It's like when you think about the Banu, you think about the merchantman, that kind of thing. So it just has to exude their people, and they're gonna live up to all of their stereotypes because they know people want that. It's got to be the best. It's got to be garish. It's got to be all these sorts of things. So
I went through my
based on
Twitter
that,
and I was going to say, I went through my Twitter and translated all of the bits of Banu I could find in that concept art as well. So it's on my Twitter account if you want to see it. But there's nothing surprising there. It's kind of like welcome and get your food here above the restaurant bit. So
Banu Waras.
but it's nice to
Now-
see. It's the first time they've actually put the alien language in the concept art and not just
Yeah.
some squiggles. So that's good.
yeah, the question in terms of the Banu doing, hey, this is Banu, and when they're selling it, do you think it's possibly that when they're doing that, it's this is the image you have of Banu, so we'll put that in, as opposed to this is what Banu really are like. And I kind of think of my higher education when I was looking at multiculturalism in Australia, and we were talking about the Greek communities in Melbourne, and it was often said that there were more Greeks in Melbourne than there were in Greece or in Athens. And Greeks would go back to Athens and they'd say, "Oh, it's not Greek enough," because they'd kind of lived in that little bubble of what they thought Greek culture was like for them, but it was no longer really Greek culture. And so, what we're seeing as Banu, really Banu culture, is what the Banu just think we want, so that's what they give us.
The Banu culture isn't like as nailed down as any of the other cultures because the Banu culture of a planet could be vastly different to of the next planet over. But it's just that they unify around that idea. Their logo that you get now, this circles within circles, translates as Embe Banu, Banu made, and that is that is held up like in the USA, where it's like made in the USA, and you're supposed to believe that means it's going to be well made and it's going to have been made where people have been paid properly. It's not completely slave labor, and all these other kind of connotations of it being a good thing. And it's that's like as far as the branding goes, really. It's like the idea that
Like the
because
green
the Banu
kangaroo.
made it, because the Banu made this, that you should think it's a good thing.
Like the Australia-made symbol, we have the triangle with the kangaroo, a green triangle with a kangaroo in the middle.
We're something we just put Union Jack on everything, like food, clothes, other people's countries,
someone's face.
It's okay. It's okay. You're the entirety of the London Museum.
Yeah, that's a sticky one.
All right. Let's talk a little bit about okay. So this is where I'm going to get into my lore theory crafting here, because I'm also going to talk about the other ship, the Liberator. This is my theory crafting, and feel free to go with me or go against me. This is just kind of where things go off there. I think the Liberator is an old ship. I think it was built around the same time as the Valkyrie. Because in lore, we know that the Valkyrie was purchased or was built before they needed the Valkyrie. the way that the lore worked was that they spent a lot of money on a big thinking machine to come up with what the next generation of non-combat military craft was going to be. And it ended up being the Valkyrie. So they built the Valkyrie, they tested the Valkyrie, they made it working, and then by the time the UEE was like, we need a new dropship, Anvil was just like this one that we've already tested and built for you in secret? And the UEE was like, yes, like that one. I feel like that's what the Liberator is, because like then they went, we need another heavy lift, like long range transport, and Anvil was just like this. I am a magician. Love me. And it fits with that whole
works because
that whole time period, the early 29th century, when like they were running out of transports, like needed transports. So I think that would work.
And that works with the idea, because we know that the Hercules is relatively newish, but it was replacing an old transport.
Yeah.
And this, the Liberator can carry 2 tanks or 2 internal things, and it's got the up, hanger up top, or the flat top. So it's kind of there, but it's not there.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have a VTOL, and it doesn't look like it'll fly well in atmosphere. It looks like it'll be a brick. But it did the job. Whereas the Hercules is, hey, we're heavy, we do heavy lifting and we can fly in atmo.
Yeah. So we'll see.
Something we've been missing with both the new ships that launched was a brochure, and the brochure always puts it in lore, and instead we've had a nicely informative but still kind of pro forma pair of launch pages for these. And there's only one comment about saying like, oh, it's joining Anvil's lineup, but it didn't really feel like an in-lore statement. So I think it's entirely possible that if they do kind of give a Whitley's guide, that we find that the Liberator is some like ancient sort of Second of Iron War kind of thing that has been demothballed.
They
do talk about the Atlas chassis.
Yeah, an old Case Aerospace ship. Yeah. The chassis.
I think it's funny that the Valkyrie, I think, in lore was supposed to be named after an older dropship. And we've also got the Valkyrie Liberator edition. So is Anvil's new motto that like they just save money on the branding department and pass those savings on to you?
Yeah.
I think that idea even pushes that kind of supports Paul's theory crafting, that the Liberator is actually an older ship. It's an older ship than the Liberator.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it was
the Valkyrie Liberator.
I think I wouldn't be surprised if it was Case, and if they just change it so that the Valkyrie Liberator is actually named after the Liberator, because it's the new replacement for the Liberator. I'm trying to think of the thing once was. Oh, how much did it tickle you to see the Hadesian artifact in game?
Oh, I love that prop. That prop is so spicy.
Sorry, I'm starting to salivate.
Yeah. I'd say for people like Jail and Algrid and I, that's something like that. My immediate thought was they're working on Hadesian artifacts. They're working on the Hadesian style. Are we starting to think about Hades?
Did you notice that in one of the scenes that the artifact was actually part of one of 3?
One of 3.
It actually clicked together to make the circle.
Yeah.
So my question is, what does it do?
The bit that
I'm sure there are many members of Hurston's R&D department would also like to know that question. For those of you who don't know,
as well as Art Corps and Microtex and
for those of you who don't know, essentially the Hadesians blew themselves up. They self-immolated themselves, and in part of that process, they destroyed one of the planets. I don't mean like ruined the surface or no, they cracked it. It is a half planet now. They ripped it to pieces. And Hurston and K&W and Bering have been sending archaeological teams to the Hades system to try to find what cracked that planet. So they're trying to find any old lost tech, because they're like, weapon of mass destruction.
I just saw the chat, which did make me laugh. Someone said it's a Hadesian toilet seat.
It immediately vaporizes anything that goes through it, but that's its purpose.
Something I noticed about that though was they said we wanted it to be glowing, we wanted it to have like multiple different materials, we wanted it to have writing on it, and I didn't think in the final prop there was anything which really read as a writing system. And knowing CIG's approach to that in the past, I kind of half imagine they turn around and go, "We want something writing," and they go, "Okay, so we're going to develop a whole new language for the Hadesians. Is that going to happen right now or what?" Because
we'll
they're
put our
doing that.
patents on it, and we'll let Mr. Britton solve that later. Go, no.
I just love the implications it has for future gameplay. Like, obviously, like I love the lore, but I just know nothing about it. But the sort of implication of like, all right, cool. So we've got this cool thing that we want to get, but it requires 3 of these artifacts. All right, so one of them we're going to have to get by going to this guy, and we've got to trade with him or murder him and try to escape, etc. Like they should. One of them we might have to, go into a cave, actually discover. One of them we might have to, earn through reputation, etc. It's got some good implications for future long-term gameplay.
Yeah. I mean, like the Hadesians, and I'm not sure if it's going to be the same people that whoever made the ruins near Kazi on Terra.
Yeah.
And yes, they like us pronouncing it Kazi like toilet, but there we go. Is like they are MacGuffin, like they're MacGuffin generators. So they're kind of like the Aliens and the Dwemer from your Elder Scrolls game. They exist they exist in the game to give us ruins to explore and MacGuffins to find, and that's fine. That's great. That's gameplay.
But I'd also love to see like you need to find the this Banu merchants like lost family heirlooms or like whatever, like they're the most treasured objects of their Suli that were lost. So, and it's just like a crystal, a rubber duck, and like a Vandal blade, and it's like knife, and you got to go all these places, like any kind of MacGuffin, that kind of mystery adventure. Go out and do this thing. We need these objects. Go grab them. And now
also just sort of like imagine like maybe also just imagine like maybe you're doing pirate gameplay or something, and you come across a player that has one of those MacGuffins. Oh, okay. What? All right, now I've got to figure out where the hell this comes from and what I'm supposed to be doing with it.
Drop it, just toss it.
I love the idea of just objects having value. Just random objects having value is also a nice thing, because it means that you can actually get objects, knickknacks, and sell them, which would be good, or keep them or whatever. So, oh gosh, I'm trying to think of what else to talk about. All right,
how about that 400i?
Okay, let's go through the ships. Crunchy, thoughts on the 400i and the Liberator?
So 400i, loving it at the moment. Got to play it a little bit on the PTU last night. Big fan. It's like the first Origin ship that I haven't completely despised. One thing that absolutely infuriates me with a lot of Origin ships is like, it's cool, it's all luxury and everything. They are terrible at management of like storage and their spacing and all that sort of stuff. You get into the 400i, it feels like a luxury ship still, but hey, it's got storage. They've used the space nicely. I love it. It's great design. Big fan.
Awesome. And the Liberator. Any thoughts on the Liberator?
It is my new favorite flat boy. We're gonna be transporting probably mostly just like 50 tonks, however many we can fit on one of those. That'll be exciting.
Awesome. Jail, thoughts on the 400i?
I upgraded my Talon to 1. I like it. I think what I see when I look at it is if I think ahead to having NPC who can man your gun turrets, which is the easiest thing they could ever get an NPC crewman to do. And immediately it becomes like the meta ship for a solo player who wants to be like accessing all like missions and ground content, because you can land on the planet. These guys will have been keeping you safe because they can shoot 360, or one of them shoots 360 with their guns, so you don't have to be that good at piloting to survive getting to the planet. Then you got your speeder bike and you got loads of storage for your weapons. It's like the meta solo FPS player ship at that point. So I think it's quite cool. The Liberator, like Paul, you've been saying that you saw that one coming because it is like, you know, that is something that like the idea of ferry is necessary. And yeah, I think it has been like, you know, that's been a recurring thing that's been said, that we need some ships for moving ships. If you're going to make it so that like a small ship can't go the length of the universe, you need something that can carry it. And yeah, I think it really fits that role. I think it's a really great org ship, but I can't see why an individual or even just a small group of friends would get one.
No.
So it's an org ship. That's great. I think it does that. I like that it's ugly. I like that it's basically a Higgins boat in space.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I look forward to seeing how that develops. I think it would be good if they had some like bunk racks for the crews of the ships being moved.
Yeah, I agree
Even
with
if
that
they
one.
were just, you know, Drake bunks, you know, the old fold down Hessian bunk type thing.
Yeah,
Just have a bit like Squid Game in the back, just all these bunks.
yeah.
Yeah.
What was I going to say? The way that I've looked at the Liberator is that the Liberator is like the guy with the truck. You don't necessarily want to own a truck, but knowing the guy with the truck is very useful when you need to move.
Yeah.
So you may not want to buy it, but knowing someone who owns a Liberator is probably a very good thing. Algrid, thoughts on 400i and Liberator? I think you talked about it a little bit before, but
Yep. I did like the look of the 100 eyes they showed it, but when they first showed the rear view, I love the engines and that, but I got the vibe of, it's a kind of it kind of feels like a bit like a carrot with the way the back wings and pylons were just miniaturized. But as they span around, the silver skin made me think, Star Wars senatorial ship. That was my first thought. I like the way they've got the spacing in it, and often Origin ships do feel like there's this massive waste of space. Probably the first ships that didn't feel like that. Well, the 300s when they gave them the rework certainly didn't feel like that. The 100 eyes didn't feel like that because they're just so compact. The 600, absolute dog's breakfast inside. I hate it. I cannot state how much I hate the interior of that wasted space and just it's a mess. The 890 makes sense in terms of the space because of what its role is. The fact that you've got the crew quarters, the fact that you've got the guest quarters, the fact that you've got the kitchen and other areas, it does feel like, okay, this is a ship that's being used for all those areas. But the 400 is not meant as a luxury ship. As they said at one point, no, we were going for the party boat, and Chris said, no, this is an explorer. Make it an explorer. It's a competition for the Aquila and the Corsair. And when you start looking at it in that sense, and you look at what it's got and what the others have got, you actually see, it is different levels of same type of gameplay. One, it's got less cargo, but it's got better living quarters than the Connie, but not as good as, say, the individual rooms that the Corsair has. It uses less crew, so it's a max crew of 3 as opposed to the others that are 3 or 4. It doesn't have a parasite, but it does have room for the bike. You can still take another vehicle like what's that small vehicle?
It can fit like a cyclone in the
Yeah,
back.
the Cyclone. You can put a Cyclone in the back, just like you can put the Ursa in the back of a Connie. But if you do that, you're losing your cargo space. So it's it really does, to me, feel like it fits in between that Connie and Corsair type area. And I know a lot of people say, oh no, it's really just a Cutlass or a Freelancer, but
keep talking.
to
I'm
me,
gonna be right back.
the size and the weapons and the components, to me, say this is a Connie / Corsair derivative.
Yeah.
I don't think it's bad that people are making comparisons to the Freelancer, because I think that's another, although it might be lower tier in that, it's another ship where a soloist can own it. They can get a benefit from having another crew member, and they can access like a lot of the game like that without much compromise. And I think that applies to the 400i as well. That it's it's a soloist can get a lot out of it, and that's a good thing.
And you look at the Cutlass, and you look at the freelancers, and people are right when they make the comparison. They say, well, these carry more cargo or similar cargo. And I think that the Cutlass carries 66 units of cargo as opposed to the 400 it carries, I think, 42. So when you start looking at the cargo space, making that comparison to the Cutlass or the 100 or the freelancers makes sense. When you start saying, oh, look, but what about the weapons? And you say, well, the Cutlass outguns it, the freelancer outguns it, they've got better missile loadout. When you look at the missiles on the 400, there's the same type that the Connie has, and they're bespoke, so you can't, it's size 1s and size 2s. And so it really does, as much as I can see the arguments for the other, to me, it just feels like it is that Connie / Corsair option. It's same similar size, similar flight, similar components. And you've got the differences in, one flies better than the other. Corsair clearly flies the worst. Connie's in the middle. 400's up the top. In weapons, Corsair's up the top. 400's down the middle. Connie's in the middle. In the middle of that. The way the components, Corsair's up the top. Connie's kind of in the middle. So it feels like it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, and depending on what you're actually after. And I think the other thing that'll come into play is how good the sensor suite is. It's supposed to be an Explorer. How well does it do that Explorer gameplay? And that bit we don't know yet.
Yeah.
And I think that also, I mean, we haven't spoken much about its profile. It's quite a sleek ship. So that means, more guns per shootable area. That's always a good thing. And I mean, people are making the comparisons to the Sith Interceptor from the Phantom Menace. That's not a bad thing. That's a good comparison to be making, and an exciting one. I like the ship, and I think also it comes back to this idea of what does luxury mean when they're making and selling a ship. And there was an idea that Gurmukh Carr had back when he was working on the Phoenix, the Constellation Phoenix, and this is many, many years ago now. And he was saying, we have at this stage you had like the freelancer, which came in like normal, Explorer, military, and you had and like up cargo, and you had the Connie, which came and the Origin series, which came in normal, Explorer, cargo, and military. And he was saying, we're getting bored of this idea that there's just these different flavors. So for this one, we're not going to do a military variant. We're going to do like the one with more guns and more shields. We're going to call luxury, and that's going to be like a nice way to still give that kind of upgunned, more survivable experience without it having to always fall into the same aesthetic pigeonhole. And I feel like that's almost what they're doing with the 400i. It's like out of those ships, I think that's the 400i has got a lot of survivability, even if that survivability comes from running away.
Yep. And you look at the turrets. Its turrets are really geared for running away. It's one of the few ships where it's got the most firepower for when you're leaving. I don't want to be
both
chasing.
of the rear. Sorry,
I don't want to be
both of
chasing
the
up
rear.
one.
Go ahead, Crunchy.
Sorry. Pretty much both of the rear turrets we tested last night, pretty much neither of them can hit the same target as the pilot guns, assuming that they're directly ahead of you. So, they're rear turrets. It's what they're there for. They're there for running away.
Yeah. But four size 3 guns firing at someone who's chasing you, that's nasty. And if you're firing missiles at them as they're flying away, that's 4 guns that are trying to shoot down those missiles. So it is a great ship in that sense. And it just, I do like the idea of it. It has that luxurious feel. It has that that feel. I did used to like the aesthetic and the original Connie with the artwork, even the the artwork that was hung up, even in the crew quarter section of the old Connie. So you go, oh, there's a picture on the wall. Oh, there's another picture on the wall. But there are other areas in that old Connie Phoenix that were a mess. But yeah.
All right. I think we've just
Yes,
kind of good.
the 400i should be called Brave Sir Robin. Yes, I agree.
I will also say the 400i has the best design of any interior design of any Origin ship, since it's maybe the 100i. Interior looks fine.
And I think the design of it also makes it front on a smaller cross section. So it's got a smaller cross section, I think you'll find, than say a Connie or a Corsair, or even a Freelancer or a Cutlass.
There's a question in chat that you might be able to answer for me as well. You're saying about the turrets can't converge on the same target as the pilot shooting, but can they converge on the same target if it's behind you? So do they overlap?
Yes. Yes. If it is directly behind you, both turrets can fire at that target.
Cool. Thanks.
All right. Well, I think we're going to end this discussion section here and move on to questions. If you have any questions, please put them into the chat. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Gives us time for these folks to get up, move around a little bit, get something to drink, get something to eat. I got to get some more caffeine to stay awake. I got, because I still got what is it, 2.5 hours left. I got this. Even if it is, I can do this. All right,
we'll get you there. We'll get you there, even if you have to fall asleep.
Yeah, we believe in you.
We'll be right back.
Jail will give you a language lesson.
There we go. Right back.